Yes, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live Q&A podcast here on the Rugby Muscle Athletes Facebook group. I'm your host, as always, TJ, and today we have, I think I've got like 5 or 6 questions to get through. We've got about 40 minutes, I believe. I might run over. You know, I always say this, but the chances are you'll listen to this post live, right? And so you know how long this podcast is, so I don't know why I always address that, but I do like to do that. As always, the questions have been asked on the Facebook group. I've also got a couple coming in from Instagram at TJ_rugby, where guys who don't have Facebook have asked that. And now what I've said to those guys is, ideally, go ahead and ask them on the YouTubes, because the comments on the YouTubes always massively helps the algorithms and stuff, and that's something that I need assistance with, and that really does help out the show. But the other thing is, it's just easier to keep them all in one place, and Instagram is, especially my personal one, the TJ Rugby one, I just don't I don't inspect it as much. So if you ask a question there, it might get missed, especially if you want it to be answered on the live. And really, getting questions answered on the live is by far the easiest way to get very accurate answers on the questions, because I can go in depth. I've got time to go in depth on the answers, and you should see that from the answers that I will give on today's episode. As always, if you're watching on the live, thumbs up. I will answer your question if you make a comment on the live feed itself. If you are watching on YouTube after the fact, thumbs up, and like I said, any questions there. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, I always appreciate a 5-star review. In fact, you guys have been legends recently with the reviews, and that doesn't mean that we have to stop. That means we keep that stuff up, because the more reviews we get, the more I can dedicate more time to this. It's the podcast isn't like my main focus at the minute. It's close, and once we start getting more and more reviews, we are getting more and more monthly listens, thanks to the reviews, thanks to you guys tuning in. And the more we can do that, the better. And the more reviews we get, the more I can dedicate time to this. You know, like I said before, maybe we even switch to like 3 times weekly episodes. So everything that you can do to help out the show. If you're listening also on podcasts, or if you're even watching on the live, you can also save yourself a lot of the questions that you've got to ask by downloading 50 free rugby conditioning sessions and getting your free macros at rugby-muscle.com, or for the macros, rugby-muscle.com/macros. And without further ado, it looks like everything is going well. I'm seeing a lot of slow, spindly stuff. Okay, let's get to. I should give a review first. 19 Doyle 84 says the best rugby/fitness podcast. I'm honoured to hear that. This is the best rugby/fitness podcast around. Clear, informative, and most importantly, easy to understand. Hopefully you heard that. 19 Doyle 84. If you did hear that, give me a shout out. TJ at rugby-muscle.com or TJ_rugby. Just shoot me a message, and I will hook you up with either a free consultation, or I'll give you a free month of Team Rugby Muscle for that, because that was awesome. Thank you for calling me a top bloke. Not even my best friends do that. So, yeah, if you can go ahead and give us a 5-star review. I say it on every podcast. I've got lots of reviews to be going through to make sure that everyone gets a hookup. Essentially, it should equate to 1 a week, and then that should equate to one person getting a free either a free consultation or whatever I feel like giving away that week. Now, without further ado, we've delayed a little bit this morning. Let's get into the questions, okay? Okay, first one comes in from Ian, who says, what are some books you think everyone should read at least once? So personally, I think Cal Newport, Deep Work, is one of them, and even in saying that, I've realized that that's definitely not the book, but I like Deep Work. I like the idea of and the power of, let me see what it's called, I think it's called The Power of Full Engagement. And all of these are sort of principles that I like to stick to in terms of like life. Now, for training, I'll get onto those in a sec. But yeah, The Power of Full Engagement is a fantastic book. It's talking about how you manage your energy and not time. We fall into a lot of things in this world where, and actually, let me get into the best book out of all this in all this category. So this category is almost like reframing your mind and sort of figuring out what's important to you, and then going about and being as effective as you can at dealing with those things. So the third book in this sort of, so we've got Deep Work, we've got The Power of Full Engagement, and we've got Essentialism. Essentialism is a fantastic book I suggest everyone reads, because it sort of reminds you that everyone sort of gets brainwashed by society, right? We get told what's important to us, we get it dictated to us, we don't get to choose for some reason, right? We get told what's important to us, we get told, and we sort of take everything for its at face value, and we just go through life. And sometimes there are so many little practices that you do and so many things that you say yes to that you don't really want to do, and you feel like you have to do that, you're obliged to do all these things that don't make you happier. Whereas Essentialism gives you the permission to actually, Essentialism gives you the sort of permission to say no to a lot of things. It gives you it gives you a framework for really discovering what's important to you and how to go about living a life of doing things only that are important to you, and how that's okay, and actually how that's exactly what you should be doing with your life. And I always think that a lot of what I do when I do my coaching for fitness and nutrition is fitness and nutrition essentialism, because we cut through all the BS that you're told you're supposed to do, that's all just distractions, and get you living and get you focusing on the few things that matter. I think that's probably the biggest task of life. Is we are just inundated, we are swarmed, we are overwhelmed, we are drowned by distractions, particularly because of this thing, right? We're constantly given reminders and notifications, and we're getting emails and messages, and you can infinitely scroll through Instagram all day, and you know it never stops, and you can just keep going through life and spending your whole life distracted by things that aren't important to you. And Essentialism takes that away and really makes you understand, like, try and figure out, gives you a framework to try and figure out what's important to you, and then gives you a framework about, like, because obviously not just figuring out what's important to you isn't the only thing. It's more about actually sticking to your guns. So, you might say, oh, my diet's really important to you, but then, your 3 friends phone you up and say, we're going to the Pizza Hut buffet today, are you going to come? And you feel like a dick for saying no. Whereas Essentialism gives you, like, different ways to deal with those sort of situations. And I found it to be a phenomenal book. One other book I like to recommend in terms of, like, life philosophies would be, and I would listen to it because it's a difficult one, or I'd get like a updated version, but Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's so cliche, and if you pick this up, I picked this up like years ago because everyone told me that it's a fantastic book that I definitely had to read. So then I picked up years ago, went to read it, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is just it's a lot, it's heavy, right? It talks in old English. And you don't really get it to begin with, and you got to do a bit of background research on why Marcus Aurelius wrote this book and what his situation was, or these musings that have been made into this book is what Marcus Aurelius wrote. But once you actually get out of your own way and either just listen to the book, which is what I did and I keep doing because I keep going back to it, you realize that there are so many, like, fantastic life lessons from this dude that lived over 2,000 years ago. Like, it's ridiculous that these lessons still apply so much to us today. And you're like, this guy has not been here for thousands of years on this world, but they were still dealing with the same shit. And so he comes up with some really good ideas about how to sort of get pushed through. But really, it's just quite a deep philosophical book, and it's a bit heavy for a lot of you guys that are probably listening to this podcast. But I would recommend it. If you listen to the audiobook on Audible, I recommend listening to like at least 1.5 times speed, because it drags on, but the lessons the actual content of it itself are really phenomenal teachings and things that you should absolutely, like, pay attention to. And it's stuff that will help you in today's life, and it's stuff that like will absolutely enhance your life and make you happier. Then, in terms of training books, I would recommend Nutrition and Training. The Nutrition and I think they're just called the Nutrition and Training Pyramids by Eric Helms. You can get them online; they're fantastic. Or the Lean Muscle Diet by Alan Aragon for nutrition, or the Renaissance Diet by Renaissance Periodization. All fantastic resources to get your base of understanding for nutrition, sort of get you understanding what's really important. If that's how you learn, you don't have to, buy books and read them online. You can also go through video courses, such as rugby-muscle.com/diet to understand what you should be eating. And then training, I've said this one before, the Scientific Principles of Strength, I think it's called, by Chad Wesley Smith and Dr. Mike Israetel. Fantastic book, and it sort of explains everything that you need to do with training. What's cool about it and what I actually like about it is that it doesn't give training templates at the end, because I've always been the sort of person that wants to skip to the shortcuts, like and wants to, I don't want to read the background information. I just want to go through the training templates, and I just want to implement it and make sure it's right. Whereas what he does is he lays out exactly how you should individualize every single training program that you create, and therefore it doesn't make sense to then give some templates at the back. So he doesn't even do that. You have to then use the principles that they talk about and come up with your own training plan. And that's the whole point of training. It's something I've learned during my years of coaching people, is that there is no there's no definite things that you have to include in a training plan. There's no definite things that you cannot do in a training program. Like, it's so highly individual, and there's like the scope that you can use to create a effective training program is fucking phenomenally huge. And so we might even get into that when I answer a couple of these questions on this podcast later on. But those are the books I'd recommend. I'd also say that I think reading some fiction is also good to help you wind down. I read Jack Reacher because they're easy to read. I read them before I go to bed. Lots of easy reading fiction books. I just think that reading is a lost art. But at the same time, if you do it and you enjoy it, it takes you a while to get back into it and to enjoy it. But if you can do it, it is really rewarding. But if it's something that you're like not in a stage of life that you need to do, or that you enjoy and that you can get your head around, you don't have to read. You can educate yourself via podcasts, via audiobooks, via videos, But whatever you do, it should be like a little bit slower and dedicated, and like you have to pay more attention. Like, you're not gonna educate yourself through 60-second Instagram clips or 10-second Instagram clips or however many words you can write in a caption on Instagram or Facebook posts. You have to dedicate yourself a little bit deeper. Now, whether that's video, audio, or written, or even you go to a class or something, that's fine, but you have to, actually sort of really pay attention to get the most out of that. Because I've seen, like, for example, I signed up for I can't remember what it was now. I can't remember the name of it's called Blinkist. I signed up for Blinkist, which is a service where they condense books into like 5-minute or 15-minute snippets, and they just condense each chapter and they run through it. You don't really get the benefit of reading the book, and like I think that taught me quite a deep lesson that skipping through the notes of each book doesn't give you anything. And that doesn't mean to say that you have to read each and every book, because a lot of books are just a lot of fluff. But skipping through the notes and just trying to take the lessons out without actually reading the book isn't a good idea either. So I'd find the balance, whatever you want to do, and really, I think you've got enough from books there that we can move on to the next question. If you have any follow-ups to that, as always, ask them in the comments below. But we'll move on to the next question, which actually comes from Instagram. It's from Scott Atkins, who says, wondered if you could either chat about it in your next pod or respond to me here. No way I'm answering this question on Instagram, because look how long this is, or look how detailed I wanted this to be. And this is what I was talking about how you can ask deep questions here. So he says, at the minute I have a real bad relationship with carbs. and would like your opinion on him, especially in a muscle building phase. So that was the end of his question. So I was like, I don't know what a bad relationship with carbs meant. So I asked him to elaborate on that, because in a muscle building phase, you need carbs. Like, you need carbohydrate to grow. It gives your body the energy. It gives your body the energy to grow muscle tissue. It gives your body the energy to recover. It gives your body the energy to train hard. It's by far the success of a bulk is going to be down to how well you train, how many carbs you eat, pretty much. Okay, most people have enough protein. Most people tick the other boxes. None of that other stuff matters. Most people have enough protein, but if you get the more carbs you have, the more successful your bulk's going to be, as long as you tolerate them well, and obviously then you're allowed to train hard. Here we go. So he says, so basically I was on a diet a year or so ago to trim down, which meant I didn't eat carbs prior to working out, or very little anyway. Then would only consume them post-training for muscle replenishment and prior to going to bed due to hormone release helping me feel tired. This was advised to me by a personal trainer. Personal trainer sucks. Since then, I've been under the impression carbs should be earned, quote unquote. I've been led to believe that it should only be consumed around workouts when building muscle, pre-workout, post-workout, and the meal after that also. I'm so anal about it now that I can't let it slip and feel bad if I consume carbs without it being pre, post, or post one workout. Wondered if you could either chat about it on your next pod. At the moment, I have a real bad relationship with carbs. Oh no, that's the question from before. Okay, cool. So, really here, Scott, like, this is the prime example of someone that needs to understand essentialism when it comes to diet, okay? What you eat around your training window is nothing compared to your daily calorie intake. And I bang on about that a lot when we talk about rugby muscle nutrition. And it's something that most people absolutely misunderstand. They absolutely think that your post-training, if you have a perfect pre and post-workout meal and then you eat nothing elsewhere, you're not going to have enough calories to grow. Likewise, if you have a perfect pre and post-workout meal and you're trying to lose fat, and then you go and have a pizza after that, or you don't train very hard or whatever. There's so many different factors that go into how you should make a diet. Pre and post-workout training is towards the top of the pyramid, or pre and post-workout nutrition. It is important, but like, if you haven't addressed your actual total daily calorie intake, then like, it's, you're sort of you're revving up your engine, and you're trying to soak up the engine, and you're trying to get this giant big exhaust to make your car go faster when you're putting in the wrong gas, or you have no idea how much gas is in your car, and you're probably running on flat tires. So once you've got your head around that, understand that it's more about total daily intake. Now, I will go into in depth, and if you're not on Facebook, so you're not watching this live, I will do a bulking and massing. I've done one before, but I will do a how to gain muscle, rugby muscle applied. I'm a big fan of setting decently high protein, about 1 gram per pound of body weight. Like minimum. I like setting high protein, particularly for rugby players who go through a lot of work, and I just don't see the negatives about having like protein set that high. And then low-ish fat, so like anywhere, I wouldn't go above 1 gram per kilo of body weight for fats. Really, you can, but I don't see a need to. I like keeping it around a gram a kilo, or half a gram per pound of body weight for your fats, and then just fucking smash the carbs. Everything else comes from carbs. So that means that you have to have carbs, not just pre and post workout. Yes, they can be your biggest meal, but what you got to understand is, like, you don't digest a meal within 30 minutes or within an hour. So what's most important is and you don't recover from training within an hour or 2 hours. Your recovery from training takes at least 24 to 48 hours. So once you've hit a muscle, you're not then immediately recovering from it. You're then immediately recovering your nervous system. Then you're starting to recover and rebuild that muscle like in the days following that. So why would you not have your carbohydrates like later on? Why would you not have your carbohydrates earlier on? You know, the only downside to having too many carbs pre-training is sometimes like carbs can tire people out, but I think I'm just a fan of getting as many carbs as you can. In general, like it's something that I've been playing with a lot more this year, and the more I've been playing with it, the more it's paid off. I've yet to see someone that's had, you know, that's messed up their massing period or messed up their training period by setting their fats relatively low and smashing the carbs. It's not worked out yet. Hi guys, I just wanted to jump in here to tell you that if you're enjoying this podcast and you want to become a better athlete, then you can go ahead and visit rugby-muscle.com and pick up any of our free goodies. That is the 50 free rugby conditioning sessions, the Physique Nutrition Crash Course video series, the supplement guide, and newly added is a macro calculator. Yes, that's right, a macro calculator where you will be able to work out your protein, carbs, fat, and calories that you should be eating on a daily basis to give you a guide as to where to start your diet from. This will help in conjunction with your 50 free conditioning sessions to build you out a decent little plan that will enable you to take control of your training and use effective training and nutrition to become a better athlete. All of that stuff and more can be found at rugby-muscle.com or rugby-muscle.com/macros for the macro breakdown. As long as you're eating healthily as well around that, you're getting in a good spectrum of fats in with those low fats, but really it's all about carbohydrate. So how you can overcome that, I would go in at a deep end, and I would just spend like I would download the Rugby Muscle macro calculator at rugby-muscle.com/macros. I would then go for the lower fat option, and I would just plan out 4 or 5 meals a day or however many meals you have, and just evenly spread out those carbs. And I would just do that for 3 weeks. And if you get really fat, then at me and say, oh, this has been a big balls up. But what you've also got to understand is there's also another issue here that doesn't just pertain to diet. There's an issue here where you said that like you have a bad relationship with carbs. I'd say is also you have a bit of a bad body image issue here, because what you've got to understand is if you're in a muscle building phase, you're going to gain a little bit of fat. It's just the way it is. It helps you gain more muscle. You can't, like, if you were to have a tiny surplus over the course of 3 months, maybe you gain 2 pounds of muscle, maybe, okay? And you don't gain any fat, great, maybe. That's being fucking generous if you're relatively new or an intermediate trainer. That is kind of possible, maybe, right? Whereas you could gain 8 pounds in, did I say 2 months? No, I said 3 months. You could gain 8 pounds in 3 months, maybe even a little bit less. Half of that is fat, half of that is muscle, and then you just cut out the fat. It's just that much easier. You can gain much more muscle if you gain a little bit of fat along with it. Or let's say 6 pounds of muscle, 2 pounds of fat, or whatever it is, 5 pounds of muscle, 3 pounds of fat. You can then shed that 3 pounds of fat fairly easy, and you've gained 3 more pounds of muscle than you would have done in my overly generous lean bulk phase. And I think that's absolutely fine. As long as you're doing enough cardio, as long as you're doing a little bit of cardio in your bulk. As a rugby player, it's important to do conditioning when you're gaining muscle, because you want to adapt to your new body weight, and you want to make sure that you are staying conditioned. You don't want to just end up fat and slow and out of shape. Cool. So, I think you just got to let that go. It's one of those, you need a hard reset and just not worry about it. It's something that you don't need to worry about. Like, you're not going to get, you could have 500 grams of carbs in your post-workout and no carbs anywhere else, and it wouldn't really be any different from having 100 grams in 5 different meals. Your body takes its time to digest this stuff. The body takes, like, muscle gaining particularly is a slow process. It's not something that's done within the few hours after your training session. It's done over the course of months. That example I just gave, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. That's how long it takes to put on a good bit of quality muscle. If you look at rugby-muscle.com/transformation, you'll see my transformation. It's impressive. 10 months. And that's 10 months of being like spot on thanks to lockdown. But that's still a long time. Most people will never stick to a training program, or definitely not a bulking phase, for 10 months. Like, that's how long it takes to gain really good quality muscle. And most of that muscle I did in that transformation was just regained. And so when you understand that, you understand that, oh, I have a little bit of carbs at breakfast, doesn't matter, you know? Now, with that all being said, I do prefer, if you're not training first thing in the morning, I do prefer a little bit of a lower carb breakfast, just to get your digestive system into the day. I like to have a shake or something just a little bit light, and it's just mostly protein, just to get that protein in, and then I'd move on. But there's so many different ways. Go back and listen to some of these podcasts where I talk about nutrition, Scott, and that will really help you understand, you know, the role of carbohydrates. Cool. Next question, we'll go to the YouTubes for this one. Yunboroy3. This is the problem with answering YouTube questions. Names like this. Yunboroy3 says, how can some people pass longer and others can't? What muscles helps to stabilize this movement? How to improve it? Generally, being stronger is going to help. Number one. This isn't in any order. This is just the order that I'm thinking off the top of my head. So generally, being stronger is going to help you pass longer. That's why kids can't pass as far. You know, the more developed you are strength-wise, the further your potential is to pass. Number two, passing technique. Of course, the people that are fastest at bowling, at throwing a baseball or bowling a cricket ball, aren't the strongest people in the world. They're the people that have the best technique. So passing technique definitely helps. And then core/rotational power. Now, I've spoken about how to train your core, and almost specifically for this, in the Rugby Muscle Physical Preparation Pyramid, which you'll find on YouTube in part 4, where we talk about the athlete. Your core musculature is all about transferring weight from one part of your body to another. It's also about stabilizing that weight, so to stop that weight from transferring from one part to another. So both of those play into it when you're talking about passing, because you want to stabilize the core to get a good pass off, but you also want to reapply the force from your foot that pushes off the ground to push that pass across from one side to the other body. So you rotate through the core. That's what's going to get you a good pass. And I would do that using, good technique. It's going to help you pass the furthest. So work on your core rotation. If you do, I don't remember if I said this in the last podcast or I said this to a client consultation. So I'm going to go ahead and say it here again. If you're doing rotational training to get a better pass, I wouldn't just use a heavy rugby ball, because you would then pass that rugby ball slightly differently. I would focus on just that rotation. So I would just rotate through the core and through your body. You can actually even do this lying down, but the stronger you and more explosive you can get your rotation, then that's going to give you the potential to pass better. I would then practice with a regular rugby ball light. I've mentioned bro ball. I've had a few boys already tag me that they've bought a bro ball. So shout outs to bro ball. We're trying to get a relationship going. Boys, hook your boy TJ up, hey? I've sent you a few clients now. Broball.co, I believe it is. Let me Google that real quick. Yeah, broball.co. It's like a half ball if you're on your own, and then you can just do 100 passes each side. Just get more consistent. And then the more consistent you can be, then the more you can then really start to launch that ball and be confident that it's going to go in a direction. Because, people can chuck a ball as far as they can, but whether that pass is accurate is another thing. So core muscle, overall muscle, rugby technique, I've covered off all those things. That's how you're going to get a better pass. Final thing I will note on this, it's just a little bit of a caveat. The pass, usually you can tell a quality rugby player not by how hard or how fast they can pass a ball, but it's the selection of passes. So this comes from being a better tactical athlete, from seeing the spaces, from knowing where to put that pass in. The amount of times when I coach rugby and people have someone that's 5'9", feet away from them and they launch his fucking pass. That's stupid. That's not what you want to do. You want to have soft hands when it needs to be soft. You want to control the pass to be as efficient as possible. You don't want to just launch a pass as hard as you can every single time. That is actually a mistake, and that's actually like it's going to negatively affect your team, negatively affect your passing, because you're going to launch the ball at a teammate that's very close. Okay, so learning which pass to use, because you can do just a pop pass, you can do end over end, you can do a spiral, you can do a looping pass, you can do a flat pass. Like, learning the different selection of passing is also just as effective, if not more effective, than how far you can pass. Cool. Okay, we have time for 2 more questions, so I will answer them both here. Actually, I'll probably just get into this one because it's quite a long question, unless anyone's asked a question on the live, of course. So this one says, from Hanno on Instagram, he says, "Hey TJ, I'm an 18-year-old South African rugby fanatic. I have a question for you. How can I play more physicality? Well, play with more physicality and get noticed more. I play lock, so I clean a lot of rucks. Any tips? Looking forward to hearing from you." Again, I asked because go to the gym, train. I don't know. There's no context to what he said, so he then asked for context. He said he trains 4 times a week, full body, focusing on compound movements, 2 push, 2 pull, 2 leg exercises per session with core after each superset, twice a week field sessions. Dude, like, that sounds good. Like, it sounds like you're actually doing what needs to be done. As an 18-year-old, you do want to focus more on hypertrophy. It also helps to be noticed, and this is like one of those things that it's not ideal. Just the way rugby is, that the more muscular you are, the more likely you are to be noticed. That, you know, if you have 2 players that play very, 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 very similar in an age group or somewhere where they want to be, you want to be scouted or something, the person that is more muscular out of the 2 people who do things similar is the one that's more likely to be noticed, to be picked up by scouts or whoever. So get bigger. So let's not even talk about training. Let's talk about your diet. rugby-muscle.com/macros. Get to know how much you should be eating. I'd probably suggest eating a lot more. At 18, you can really pound in the carbs and grow at the fastest rate you can before you get to your 20s, when growth will start to slow down. Being a Safa, you're probably going to grow like a weed anyway, because that's what most South Africans end up doing. So smash the carbohydrates, obviously get in your protein, get a good diet, get good recovery, and get good sleep, and you'll grow. And then as you grow, you're going to be more, obviously you're going to have that potential to be more physical. Obviously, having a good aerobic system is going to help you get to more rucks, which is going to help you get noticed more. The fact is, as a lock, like, sometimes you do all of the unsung stuff. So you hit rucks, you make tackles, you just be a pest at the breakdown, but not even too much. That, you just do the donkey work. And so the more aerobically sound you are, the more rucks you can hit, and you might not even get noticed. That's just the reality of being a lock. But you will be a better player, and the right scouts will notice you if you're doing those things. And if you're not, keep working at it, keep getting stronger. I would actually work also on your breakdown skills specifically. So I take 10 to 15 minutes before rugby training, just have a couple mates and just practice like the art of, we in rugby often just love to hit fucking smash bags and do random drills and stuff, but I would like low and slow, so low intensity and slowly practice your body positioning in a ruck. See how you can adapt your body to get someone off the ball, or how you can adapt your body to steal a ball when someone's coming in at you, and just get to know different, like, how your body feels in different situations in a ruck, and really get to know technique. I would look at different judo techniques, I would look at wrestling techniques, I would research some different ways to ruck on YouTube, and different sort of ways that you can sort of just be effective at a breakdown. I think that's something that people massively underestimate the importance of, because they just go into back breakdowns as hard as they can, just smash it, which is great, but the more technically sound you are, the better you're going to be every single time you hit a ruck. particularly if you are big and strong enough. Other than that, it's difficult to criticize the training sessions, because 4 times a week full body seems quite decent. I don't know how I would do 2 heavy or explosive days and then 2 sort of lighter, and when I say light, it's like 8 to 15 reps, so it's not overly light. You can still do heavy weight for that, but lighter, less taxing hypertrophy type movements. I'd look at the Rugby physical preparation pyramid on YouTube, and I would understand how to build my training sessions around that. Other than that, Hanno, you're doing quite well. I think patience also helps. It's also hard to get noticed as a rugby player in a fucking epidemic, in a global pandemic. There's just not the time. So have patience and trust the process, and I'm sure you will get noticed if you are good enough. And if you're not, just keep having more patience and trust the process even more. Stick to it. And as long as you know that you're getting better in the gym, as long as you're getting stronger, you're adding more weight to the bar over time, not necessarily every single session, but over time you're adding more weight to the bar. Over time you're adding more reps. Over time your body weight is increasing. You're getting bigger, you're getting stronger, you're going to be more physical. And as long as you play rugby enough, which is difficult at the minute, but once you get back into it, as long as you play rugby enough, you'll keep improving as a player. And that's all you can ask of yourself. I wouldn't arbitrate, getting noticed is out of your hands. Doing everything and being a better player every single week, doing everything that you can, is in your hands. I'll set those goals out for you instead. Okay. All right. I think that brings us to an end of this podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for dealing with the connection issues that I've had today. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Either next week or the week after, I will not be doing one of these lives. I might shift it to a Thursday or a Wednesday. Comment below if Thursdays or Wednesdays are more convenient for you. I'm looking forward to watching some quality rugby over the next few weeks with Bledisloe, Champions Cup and Premiership Final. I do enjoy watching rugby so much. And again, if you're a player that wants to get the most out of your playing ability and you're only focusing on the gym and you're not watching rugby and seeing how you can improve and watching the top level, you're missing out on some massive gains. So watch rugby and enjoy it, people. Okay? Thank you so much for watching. 5-star reviews all around, please. Thumbs up all around. Comments below, even after this, on either the YouTube or the Facebook. Those questions will be answered in a future live Q&A. Thank you so much for joining us. See you guys in the next one. All right, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed that episode of the Rugby Muscle Podcast, then I've got a quick little request and a potential prize giveaway for you if you do said request. All I want you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and type up a 5-star review. Just your general opinions of the podcast would be great feedback, but also helps us reach higher rankings, get more exposure, allow me to attract more guests and devote more time to developing a better all-around podcast experience for you. All you have to do, once again, is go and give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast service you use. Let me know that you've got it, and then every single week I'll be selecting one review to give away a free prize. That free prize will be either 1 free month of Team Rugby Muscle, that's our world-class strength and condition program app delivered directly to your phone, or if that doesn't interest you, then we've got 1 free consultation where I'll go over your training program, your nutrition, and advise you how to best plan for your goals. Even if none of those things interest you, it's still doing me a solid and helping the podcast grow by going and giving us a 5-star review. There's no real excuse. It takes 1 minute and that helps the show out exponentially. So I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you in the next one.